Hello everyone, welcome to the Taipei 2016 Intel Extreme Masters 10. Hello， 我们所有现场的观众朋友，以及正在收看我们直播的
Welcome back everybody to the Intel Extreme Masters. There's our beautiful host on the stage, introducing, well, the tournament and of course all the live spectators that are watching this, having a quick word with them in their local lingo. And now it's time for me to talk over it a little bit, and now I'm here back on the desk, hello. And we're very excited of this. Todd, game one is just around the corner. Byun versus Soulkey. We've talked a lot about it in the pre-game. We can talk about the players individually now a little bit more. They're going to be on the stage, they're getting the booths, they're ready, they've been warming up, they've done the map veto. It is time to play some StarCraft. And of course, all the pressure is on the shoulders of both of them now to perform, of course, to have a chance to play in the finals.
Absolutely, yeah. I must correct myself. Earlier, I did say that he was on Ceres, that Soulkey messed up. He wasn't on Ceres. He was the map 5, actually, where he went for, like we just saw those games picked together before the show. He went for a lot of flings with speed and attack with it, and like he seemed to be trying to catch Bolt off guard, and it worked out very nicely. So I wonder, like, why do you think he was going particularly for something like this in such a very important game in Game 5?
I mean, it's so hard to read Soulkey sometimes. You do look at it and you think, what do you see? But I think he's one of those players who makes those slight reads. If we do hark back to that game yesterday, he spotted the bunker on the low ground. It's all he saw. And I think purely from seeing how much damage it was doing, how many Marines were in there, he calculated, hey, this is a 1-Rax expand build. I think Hellions are going to be a bit later than normal. And off just that feeling, Soulkey's the kind of decisive player who just goes, bam, let's build 30 Zerglings and just run across the map, surrounds the bunker, gets the first 2 Hellions, and from there, you know, everything was in chaos for Bolt. So
it was brilliant in that game, but in the previous one, which was Protocol, he went for Spire on like vertical close spawn, made 4 Mutas, and then straight into Roach Ravager. Like, surely he's not going to try anything like really silly like this again, right?
I hope not. I mean, I saw him do it against Alive in the Oli Mo League finals on Arena. He also did like a Muta Rush build, and on these tiny spawn maps, it's not working. Like, it's not working. So, I mean, that's something I don't want to see from Soulkey on these small maps, is trying to get out a fast mobile harassment unit when your opponent's base is like next to your base it's kind of a crazy thing to do. So I think Soulkey should maybe slow down the Muta tech a bit. He's been dying in a lot of his ZVTs because he just rushes to Mutas and Marines and tanks just kind of run in the front and kill him. So he's got to kind of slow things down, I think, focus a little bit more on diversifying that style.
I agree with you, especially because of the way Byun played against Lilbo, where he basically held everything that was being thrown at him. He was a 3-0. Lilbo was trying to play very aggressive. He got shut down hard. Like, these games were like 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and like 8 minutes or something like that. It was really fast series.
And you think Byun's going to be looking to do the same here, Clara? Just kind of try to end this as fast as possible and get straight towards that finals. He'd be looking at the, hopefully, championship here today. A lot of hype around him. I know you're excited to see him play as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, going up against Soulkey, like Soulkey, we all know that he didn't really have an impressive 2014. He didn't have an impressive 2015, really. Like, Soulkey comes in with something to prove. Byun, is in this weird situation, this weird world where, as much as he probably comes in with something to prove as well, everyone seems like so positive about his kind of performances that we've been having recently, even just off a small sample of games. So there is some weird mysticism around Byun right now that is going further than like the performances of like people like Soulkey, for example.
Do you play on the Korean ladder when you play from Australia?
Yeah,
absolutely. You do, right? I guess it's kind of a hard question to ask. Have you kind of played either one of them?
No, I mean, look,
every day.
Accounts.
So every day, actually, I beat him every day.
Yeah,
but he didn't know because he had barcodes.
No, I mean, you know, when you're playing someone who's streaming, or someone like MC, you know, occasionally you play against Deer and Hurricane, but I don't think Soulkey or Byun play on their own named accounts, not in English names anyway.
How difficult are the Korean Terrans to play against? Because that's something that we haven't seen too much of in Star League, in GSL, and in other tournaments. Especially now Pro League's only just kind of started up. How are the Korean Terrans for you, at least, when you play against them? Is it really hard to play the matchup, Terran versus Zerg?
It's a really fascinating matchup because at the moment it is very difficult because Terran has such a range of aggression. Terran, as is always the case throughout StarCraft 2, early on in an expansion, they want to be attacking and throwing their opponents off guard. It's exactly the same right now. No one's rushing for a really fast third command center. That's a very rare build. So you've got Widowmine drops, you've got Hellion drops, you've got Hellbat timings. There's this huge range, and this is why scouting is more important than ever. And that's something which is very hard to get because your overlords get across the map a lot slower. Terrans are much better at denying scouting right now.
I know there's been some photos on the internet, but look, he's actually there. There he is. He's in the booth. He's a real person. He's out of jail.
And he kind of has a mustache.
He kind of has a mustache. Thanks, Colaris.
No problem. No problem. That's what I add to the podcast.
That's why, like,
There he is.
you're the best. Do you barcode actually, Pig, on the Korea server?
I do, but
Okay.
most of the time I ladder on my name to count. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because
You should ask
you
them
ain't
if-
scared.
You should ask them if maybe you played them. That would be so funny if Byun was like, oh yeah, like, can you try to last longer than 5 minutes?
Whoa.
That's not the first time Pig's heard that. Here's Soulkey from TSM Gaming, of course, and a top 4 finisher from last time in Taipei, where he lost to Maru.
Yeah, that was
he is
actually a
again
pretty
today.
deep run in a very tough tournament back then. So Soulkey already like I guess a good he's had a good performance at an Intel Extreme Masters. Maybe he can do it again here, but I feel like against Byun here, he's gonna need to play 110% if he wants to be able to make it to the finals.
All right, predictions, because the players are ready, the internet is ready, you guys are ready. Predictions, Colaris, who is winning this series?
I am going to say 3-1 to our Terran brother in Byun.
Pig, no bias. I know you play Zerg.
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably a 3-2 to be on here.
Thank you.
3-0, boys.
3-0?
You know nothing.
Maynard, we miss you, bro. I know you're watching probably. Well, I hope so you're watching. Todd, if you were to say 5 games is possible, is it possible? I know you said 3-0.
It is, but it's gonna take some serious surprise from Soulkey up against a Terran that's just so solid. Like I said,
Yeah.
like if you watch Byun against Lil Bo, you're like, okay, well, this guy just doesn't really die to any attacks. I know it's another matchup, but honestly, he just looks super solid. He was never really in any danger. He saw everything coming. He was being aggressive at the same time. It's not even like he just scouted and then defended. Oh no, he was getting some information through aggression, and he was really so good. I've been very impressed with Byun as of late.
All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's head over to the commentary team. It's going to be Colaris and Pig to bring you this one. The first best of 5 of the day begins now.
All right, let's do this. Byun versus Soulkey here in our semi-finals at the Invitational here at the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei. I am joined by Piggly Wiggly as we get into it. It's been a while, Pig. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but I'm wiggling and jiggling here in my seat. I'm excited for this match. I mean, I'm just honestly, I've been nerding out over Legacy and studying players, trying to learn what's the best way to play, and it's just such an exciting, crazy game right now. So I'm just kind of excited here. I've got my notepad in the back of my brain right now, looking for some builds to steal and some things to watch out for. So for me, this is just a very selfish, pleasurable experience right now.
There's that moment when you really start like looking at all of the small details in this, and you're like, that was that barcode that I played last time. Like, you start recognizing who these guys are. But I'm looking to see if Byun is going to be bringing the aggression nice and early here and putting it really on all the line. As Soulkey, I think he's going to have a bit of a hard time here against Byun. You know, he did well against Polt, but it was still 3-2. And I still firmly believe that Byun can beat out Polt in terms of skill right now here in Legacy of the Void.
Absolutely. I mean, there were some messy games yesterday, Soulkey versus Polt. I think Soulkey's going to have to step it up a notch here. I mean, going into the preparation for this one, I was watching a lot of Soulkey's games, especially, a couple of Byun's as well. And I was thinking, you know, sometimes Soulkey's a bit off on his matches. And I was thinking, you know what, when he comes here to IEM, I think he's going to have to step it up a notch. And I think he will actually do that. Oh. But then when I watched his games yesterday, I didn't feel he quite had kind of hit the level I think he needs to do. If he wants to make it to the finals, he's going to really have to take that up a notch.
And you've got, in the semi-finals now, you've got such a wealth of talent to really go up against. Not only Byun here, but on the other side, you've got SOS or Hero waiting for you. 2 big Intel Extreme Masters champions on the other side. We're about to get into our first game here in the semi-final as we load up onto Ruins of Seras for our first game. So let's jump right on in. And down to the bottom, we have our red Terran representing X-Team with the axes. It is Byun.
It's been on the rise here in Legacy. Hopefully he can really capitalize on it right now and make it through to that finals.
And then up to the top right-hand corner, we have our Bluezer representing TCM. It is Soulkey.
The return of the king. I always think of Soulkey as that guy early on in Heart of the Swarm. All the Zerg players were copying his builds. We all looked up to him as this absolute macro king player. You know, he loved to just defend and macro up. Since his return, he's changed things up quite a bit, though. He's so aggressive now. He's got so much range in his builds. And that makes it very difficult to plan exactly how you're going to play against him.
Yeah.
But as we were talking about before, he hasn't necessarily been 100% crisp because he's got so much range, so many crazy styles. So I think he does need to knuckle down a little bit here. And interestingly, it is going to be vertical spawns, so quite a very close air distance between these two players.
I was going to say, on this matchup in particular, I mean, do Reapers become a factor in this kind of spawning positions? And then later on down the line, is something like this ledge here towards the south of Soulkey's base very important for like lift ups and kind of drops and being annoying?
Yeah, it's actually really important that Soulkey doesn't take the third base towards his opponent. Already, we've seen Soulkey's Overlord has actually purposefully avoided going straight into the base so that it doesn't get spotted. So he can kind of come in here and just peek around. And that way, you know, Byun isn't going to realize exactly where he's at. And he's building a Reaper, but because he hasn't actually SCV scouted, he's not going to know which direction to go with that. So that's going to buy Soulkey a little bit of time here. And it is going to just slow down Byun getting over there, scouting what Soulkey's going to be throwing in his direction.
Yeah, still very cool there by Soulkey to just dart on around, knowing that it's there, obviously. Even without seeing SCVs at the mineral line, you can actually just click on the minerals, and then he knows it's there with the Overlord skirting the edge. Reaper going to be heading out towards the middle, and as you said, it's delayed slightly in getting over to the other side. So Soulkey has some time bought for him, not mining gas super aggressively, just getting speed out for the moment with just a few Zerglings.
And of course, Soulkey, he has pulled some guys off gas now. He's going to be going for that Zergling speed. He's probably going to want to be expanding along the top left-hand side of the map. And Byun on the other side of things, going for that factory and that second gas. So looking like very typical openings here. Of course, the Terran player wants to open up with something like either a fast siege tank and a medevac. Potentially, as you said, doing that sort of elevator push into the main, or a Banshee opening, or potentially even Liberators, as there is a lot of dead space around here.
And without any extra gas, other than just going for speed here, he's actually going for a 4-queen opener here to kind of keep himself sturdy at the front, right? So Soulkey is going to be okay, and then maybe getting his creep spread going a little bit faster here against this Reaper, etc.
Yeah, he's going to be very safe with this, and actually already going for an Evolution Chamber, which is very interesting. The Reaper for Byun does poke in, doesn't see too much, but he does see that there's no third base down yet. Now, that Evolution Chamber is most likely not for an upgrade. That's probably going to be for a Zergling drop. So this is really cute from Soulkey. Already coming in with some slow Zerglings, going to do a little bit of harassment here, and even just getting one SCV would be really nice, but very nice control from Byun. Just barely saves that.
Yeah, good stuff. Those Hellions can be annoying at the front as well if they want to be, but the big problem is that because there are so many queens out, it can sometimes be hard for those Hellions to get in. So that's why the medevac's going to be important here, as the Reaper really wants some intel, but does not get all the way back to that Evolution Chamber.
Yeah, I mean, he's seen a bunch of Zerglings, but Byun's really trying to figure out, what are you doing? Are you rushing towards Mutalisk Tech? Are you doing a Roach all-in? What's happening? And Soulkey also is coming with that Overlord. He's seen that reacted factory pumping out units. Now, I'm not sure if he actually spotted that starport.
No, he didn't.
Gonna check that. Didn't see that yet. And that Hellion drop is actually picking up. So this is something we've seen coming back into the meta very recently. And there's an Overlord drop with 8 Zerglings, so they're both going to be dropping each other at exactly the same time. This is going to get a little bit chaotic very quickly.
Oh, wow.
There's no vision over there for either player.
Yeah, not spotted at all here, as we're going to have even the Liberator being popped in just a bit, but it's going to take a while as these Hellions are going to dart on in already, trying to get a few drone kills here and there. Already 5 do end up falling. That could be a lot.
Oh my God.
8 already, 9 go down, and this is an absolute barbecue already. That being said, on the other side, Ling's running into this mineral line, really being caught off guard. There's a few sprinkling on towards that natural, but that's, well, 14 workers killed against 9, so blow for blow.
I mean, that's blow for blow, but with those mules for Terran can absorb those losses a lot easier. He's also killed a lot more drones. Nice pick up with those Zerglings killing those Hellions, but right now Soulkey's economy is down in the gutter, and Byun knows it. I mean, Soulkey's trying to rebuild a few more drones, but really, what can he do right now to catch up? It's going to take him so long to recover that work account, and it's very likely he might just continue the aggression. He's still got that drop Overlord, and Byun still doesn't have scouting there. This is a huge blunder from Byun. He should be ready for this.
Yeah, definitely. Where's the first Liberator? Did it go for some damage over towards the mineral line? It tried. We have the Spore as well as the Queen's already on patrol to try and deal with that. Lings once again getting in towards this mineral line, but the Hellions are there to support. Likewise down towards the natural.
Oh, wow. Very nice multi-prong so far. Good handling from Byun, though. Only losing 2 SCVs, but there are 2 Banelings hiding in the top of his main base. Now, Soulkey's going to wait with those. And oh, no, he's actually just going to dart in now. But Byun's watching. He's pulling the SCVs away. Great reaction. And with the Hellions coming up to respond, he is going to clean that up.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, some nice attacks attacks from Soulkey, orchestrating them well, but Byun's just been on point, he's shut them down, and he's moving in towards the mid-game with a very comfortable lead.
Now, of course, with 42 drones against the 35 SCVs here, Soulkey not down and out by any means. He's got himself a few more lings on the way, getting himself +1 melee upgrades here, transitioning on towards the layer as well. Doesn't really have huge amounts of gas income, though, and nothing's mining because that Liberator is being ever so pesky.
Oh, that's damage he can't afford right now. You know, losing any mining time when you're on such a low economy as Zerg is so difficult. Luckily, does pick off that Liberator. Byun a little bit slow to remove that. But we see now that the third command center starting up for Byun. I mean, Byun's continuing to harass all over the place. Look at this, applying so much pressure. And this is something Soulkey, I mean, he's responding to it well, but with such a small economy, he needs to just focus on drones, and Byun is not giving him that opportunity.
Still another Hellion attack towards the left-hand side. Soulkey keeping an eye on it, though. So very, very aggressive. You can hear from both sides from the very get-go, killing off as many Zerglings as possible. Not doing too badly, just needs to make sure that he's careful with that medevac, because it's so low right now that if a Queen comes along, that might leave the Hellions in a very vulnerable spot.
Upgrades now starting for Soulkey. 1-1 on the way, and a Spire down. Looks like he's going to be opting for that Ling Bane muted tech path this game. Of course, he's going to have to watch out for any potential thrust coming out of Byun. Byun continuing to just zone on the map and try to deny information. However, Soulkey has spotted the third command center before, and he's about to go in with an Overseer Scout, which is going to get him some more vision and kind of check on exactly what Byun's up to. Byun here just powering up now, up to that 5 barracks production. He's got the double upgrades going now with his own engineering bays, and it looks like both players want to dive towards that sort of macro-based mid-game, and it looks like the game actually might even out.
So on a map like this, I mean, how important is the creep spread through the middle of the map and also through down towards this bottom side? Because again, surely you've got to be protecting these avenues to make sure you're not going to get hit by these drops all the time, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really a point of contention, right? That close air path, as well as potentially down around the left-hand side. Drops can come in from all those angles. I'm loving these continual Hellion pokes out of Byun. This is so annoying. You know, Zerglings, he is actually dealing with it okay now, but he's constantly taking damage. It's distracting him from his macro, and it's really just helping to keep Soulkey in check. Meanwhile, a Liberator comes in the main again, kills 3 more workers, and this is exactly what you want to do when you're playing against a Zerg player. You just want to keep poking and prodding away and keeping them down. So I think Byun, even though he spent a lot of time powering up his barracks there, adding his production, and he didn't really have a lot of units coming out, with just those couple of Hellions and that Liberator, he's kept Soulkey on the back foot very well. Yeah,
it's really cool to see how even it is in terms of supply right now, considering how much has died on either side. So very, very close indeed, but 1-1's about to finish up here for our Terran buddy. And looking at Terran as a whole, into Widowmine production before any kind of siege tanks here. So he's really anticipating like these Ling, Bane, like and Muta, even little switch-ups here from Soulkey.
Yeah, that's going to do very well, and he's morphed all those extra Hellions he built to deal with the Ling drops into Hellbats now. So that's 9 Hellbats in that army. That's going to be very beefy. You need a lot of Banelings to kill those, or they're just going to roast all your Zerglings. So Byun now pushing on to creep. He wants to put an end to this creep spread, but he's actually pushing in really deep. Is he going to force his way right in?
He may do. I don't even think Centrifugal Hooks is done actually for Banelings. No, it's not. So if he cleans up some of this creep and slows this down, now he starts Centrifugal Hooks, realizing he's in a little bit of a bad spot there if he has to go up against higher numbers of Marines here.
Oh, slow Banelings, very good splits.
Oh no, they got like what, 1 or 2 of those Hellbats in total? And obviously scratched a few, but they're going to get healed up pretty quickly.
Oh, this is what Byun wants. Byun moving in to stop the 4th. Soulkey cannot let that 4th go down, but he realizes he just can't take the fight right now. So Soulkey's biding his time, and now he's going for it.
That was a great setup of the Widowmines as well. They got a lot of Zerglings as they ran on in. Still no Centrifugal Hooks. They'll clean up the majority of the Hellbats at the front. The Marines are going to get pushed away as well. In the end, how cost efficient was this for Soulkey, though?
I mean, it looked okay at the end, but that was after he lost the 4th base, after he lost a lot of Banelings. So I think that was a good trade for Byun.
Right.
Byun has stunted the creep spread a little bit. He has stopped the 4th base. Luckily for Soulkey, something we didn't point out before, that first scan was actually really bad. It missed almost all of the active creep tumors, and because of that, Soulkey's still got some really good frontal creep. Otherwise, he would be pushed back in terms of his map control much further. Now, Soulkey's trying to take this base in the pocket, but that makes it even easier for Byun to push towards. So Byun's going to continue to work his way in here, and another whiffed scan, actually not really stopping this creep tumor. It's getting to be a real annoyance for Byun, but Byun has a lot of units here, and he's just very carefully posturing around. He's going to go for that old fourth base location. He doesn't realize it's actually been repositioned right now.
Oh, he's loaded for Banelings into an Overlord as well that he's going to send over towards the mineral line by the looks of things. It might actually get spotted here by a medevac that's going to cross its path in just a second. Drops his can over towards the fourth base. Well, fifth base, I should say. It's not there currently, and that... If he's paying close attention, he should know that there is an Overlord on its way against this drop as well.
Oh, meanwhile, still posturing on that fourth base, refusing to engage on creepers. Byun, but Byun, being a little bit distracted while dropping in the main, does start to push in, and Soulkey shuts down the drop in the main very well. And, oh, the missile turret on the other side of things also shuts down Soulkey's drops, so both players not really getting any damage done with their drops.
Yeah, really, really well done there. I would say overall, by a missile turret that arbitrarily was placed in that location, and unfortunately Soulkey was not able to divert around it. So Soulkey needs to pay a little bit more attention if he's going to be trying to go for these things. I guess, though, in the end, if there isn't a missile turret there and you do get to just drop in after rallying it forwards, it's great because you're just trying to keep your opponents preoccupied on the other side of the map.
Absolutely, and something we didn't mention too much, but Soulkey actually had a 2-2 to 1-1 upgrade lead for about a minute and a half here, but that's about to close. And Soulkey being on the back foot, he hasn't really had the chance to go and force that engagement. Suddenly, this upgrade lead he had is fading. 2-2s kicked in for Byun, and only now is the Infestation Pit getting close to finish for Soulkey. So 3-3, Ultras, all that stuff is very far away. Soulkey needs to try and find a way to thrive on this Mutiling Bane composition. He can't just defend and wait, or Byun is going to max out on this higher quality army of Widowmines, Thors, and Marine Marauder.
Yeah.
And I mean, Soulkey's not going to win a frontal fight with Ling Bane Muta with that. So he's got to try and make something happen using his mobility right now. But Byun with that army on the top left side of the map is creating a very awkward situation. So you can see Soulkey, he's trying to push forward, but he's very afraid. And Byun capitalizes. He pushes in to shut down this macro hatch. I mean, Soulkey's got to come back. He's just got to clean this army up with his superior numbers and then start trying to get back out on the map.
Yeah, Soulkey realized how far he was out eventually. But likewise, Byun tried to capitalize on that positioning. There's still Widowmines back here, though. And he's trying to split off some of these Zerglings to loosen up exactly how much he's going to lose. And he does, actually. And all the same time, another Bioforce going to head over towards this location. Byun's going to be very careful, though. If he gets divided and conquered completely, he will get over.
There's no Widowmines. There are only 2 Widowmines now. Okay, 2 more Widowmines are coming into the fray, but he has to pick up and he's going to lose all those Widowmines. Okay, great drop into the main. He should be able to fight off the Mutas there. Now, this is going to be good to buy time, but this army cannot get trapped right now. Byun getting good trades off for now, but the Banelings have arrived, and the Mutas and the Banelings combined shut it down.
Big connections there. Even if he was to try and retreat on out, the Mutas would have cleaned up everything. A really good game by Soulkey so far. Byun on the back foot. He's still trying to keep himself in it, though, by going for this multi-pronged harass. Tried to go for a hatch, he got a macro hatch, but that's about it. He is going to lose all of these units if he's not careful.
Yeah, I mean, Byun, he's continuing to thrust in here, but this is actually just throwing away units at this point. Soulkey not getting caught off guard. He's reacting on time. Oh!
That Widowmine did a lot of damage, but I don't even think it's enough to actually kind of win out this position at the moment because he lost all the units on the left-hand side. He's now gathering up this force. I guess he really needs to wait for 3-3 to be up and running here, but
that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Ultra Cavern's halfway done. Adrenal Glands is on the way. Soulkey's managed to stabilize. He's on 72 drones. He does need to take a 5th base very soon as we are getting to that 14-15 minute mark where, you know, he's dropping it down now. He knows he needs to establish that to send those workers over. Soulkey doesn't have a massive economy. One bad fight and it can still go for, you know, in Byun's way very quickly. But right now, Byun's army not looking that big. A couple Widowmines, a Thor. Oh, this is a nice trade for Byun there. It does pick up a bunch of Banelings, but he's got to be very careful because he's lost all those anti-Baneling units, all those Widowmines time and again with that multi-prong. Suddenly we see the momentum shift in Soulkey's favor because he says, if I've just got enough Ling Bane together, you don't really have an effective composition for dealing with that. And suddenly Byun has to slow things down. And that's exactly what Soulkey wants because he's heading towards those Imbelisks, those Ultralisks, man. They're just so good against this sort of army. So Byun's trapped between a rock and a hard place. He needs to find an attack timing before the Ultras get out in any significant number.
True. I mean, considering the flow of this game, Soulkey, I really like how far he's actually gone towards all of this. Adrenal Glands is about to finish up here as well. And that is a big deal here for these Zerglings.
Oh yeah, almost an epic Baneling bomb there, but Byun does kind of spread his units out and does minimize that. Soulkey trying to buy time here, but pretty good splits from Byun so far. A lot of Banelings going down, some Thor shots on the Mutas, kind of keeping them back. But we are seeing those Ultras are almost out.
Still trying to poke forwards here, getting some volleys from the Thor on towards the Mutalisks. Not doing too bad. Up to the top left-hand corner. He's found the 5th base once again, getting the drones, and might even get the full hatchery. He hasn't sent units back to deal with that because he knows he's threatened at the front. Marauder shoots up some of the Banelings there. and still the Widowmines get crushed off, but he killed the 5th base completely.
Yeah, these fights are getting so efficient for Byun. He's actually doing this perfectly, you know. I thought he was taking too long, but he's actually managed to calculate this amazingly. And look at that Thor up front, crushes all the Banelings. The Marines get to safety, and Byun maintains the position. He's still applying pressure, and Soulkey's bases are starting to mine out. He needs a new 5th base to start mining on, but he can't secure it right now.
Getting to clean up some of those Widowmines as well there, out towards the front. This is looking a bit more difficult for Soulkey as time goes on, as you say. Of course, Byun has mined out a few of his locations. He'll have to really start expanding out further and further, and that can be easier for Soulkey to try and harass as long as the fights aren't kept on his side of the field. If Byun pushes over the other side and tries to expand, that could be okay.
Oh yeah, very nice usage of that drop. Gets even a second cancel on that base by Byun. And let's take a stock of the situations, because a lot of players, I think when they're watching this sort of game, they do have a bit of trouble figuring out who's in the lead, and it's hard to say, cut and dry who's ahead, but you've got to take into account the economy. Right now, of course, Soulkey has never hit that nice 80 drone economy where he can just throw units away. He's only at 63 drones, so even if he gets this 5th base up, he's not at an absolutely crazy economy, but he's got a very efficient army. He's got 15 mutas to shut down drops, he's got a lot of ultras, he's starting to add in some infestors. However, he won't have the money to go towards Broodlords, any of that ultimate late game, and on Byun's side, he's got Ghosts coming into play. Ghosts absolutely hard counter Ultralisks, unless the Ling Bane and the Fungal or the Broodlords can get on top of them very quickly. So Byun now is going to swap into this very defensive focused with the slower Ghost-based army, and he's going to try and slowly expand and just push forward very methodically.
Not huge mobility here, unfortunately, for Byun, as he tries to deal with these Mutalisks, and they will eventually get shooed away by Thor, but now we're seeing the base transition over to this left-hand location, which is actually being blocked by Soulkey here, but Byun realizes very quickly on those changelings, so he will claim his 5th.
No planetary there, though. That is just an orbital command center. And we do see Soulkey. He's sending his entire army down there. He wants to punish this. He's got an Ultralisk defending his top base where Byun's trying to drop. So Byun's drop, like, completely ineffectualized just by that single unit. And now comes this... Oh, those Zerglings almost taking some big Widowmine shots.
Yeah.
As long as Byun stays in a good position, he can defend this. But remember, if those Ultras, Lings, and Infestors kind of get a good wraparound, any damage can interrupt the snipe ability on those Ghosts. If they don't get the snipes off, the Ultras are going to just massacre this army. Yeah, so it's all about positioning for Byun.
Unburring those Widowmines. So it's a clever little move against only Zerglings if you think that there's going to be the split up of them. So Byun really anticipating Soulkey's moves. Seeing this drop get cleaned up towards the top left, and another base going to go down. So quite the long TvZ to start things off here, but looks like Byun's no stranger to it, just mixing in all of these Ghosts.
Oh, looks like we have potential for a big engage. All the Widowmines caught up front. Some nice Fungals, a couple of good snipes. 2 Ultralisks just disappear. Another Ultralisk goes down, and an Infestor. Oh my god, these snipes.
He's running away. You can't keep running away from this. If you go that close, you're going to lose units guaranteed from those snipes. And the Mutalisk diving in here, again, trying to exploit the immobility of their Terran Force, getting some add-ons wherever they can.
I mean, this is that point in the game where, Byun, he was so mobile before, but now he's just got that big, scary ball of army, and he's pushing right down the middle, clearing up the creep. Soulkey coming in, though, is going to find the exposed missile turret on the right-hand side with his mutas, while his Ultras find the base on the left. Soulkey starting to do big damage to Byun, and suddenly Byun's hand is forced. His economy is getting gutted. He needs to push across and shut down Soulkey's on the other side of things.
Yeah, this is what I always was worried about in Legacy of the Void. I was like, it's going to be hard to observe, and it got a whole lot harder to observe. I'm trying my best to catch everything that's going on at the same time here, but Byun trying to push in against this. There goes the snipes once again, on towards some of these Ultralisks. Still, though, not the best of positions as the Banelings roll on forwards, trying to kill them off, but there's not much to complement these Ultralisks at the moment. They're going to get pushed away.
Byun is the Ghost babysitter right now. He's keeping them all so safe, and that's exactly what he needs to do. Those Banelings are such a big threat for them, but there's too many Banelings and Ultras coming in right now. Soulkey gonna find the engage he needs. The Muta's coming in from behind, and he absolutely crushes Byun's force.
Absolutely perfect orchestration there from Soulkey. At the same time, behind all of this, ravaging positions with these Ultras that just are not going to die to rudimentary defenses alone. And he could go over and go for the jugular here. There's not much that's going to slow him down.
Oh, this is such great play from Soulkey, and he was getting bruised a lot in the early stages, but Byun wasn't quite able to capitalize on it. He got maybe a little bit too over-aggressive at some points, and the moment Soulkey got a bit of breathing room, he found that space to tech up to this high-tier army. He's found these great engagements, this great multi-prong harass, and I mean, Byun's at 33 SCVs, he barely even has a mining base on the left-hand side now, and Soulkey, I mean, he's got 57 drones, he's still got that healthy 5th, a healthy 6th base mining. He can do pretty much whatever he wants right now. He's just got too much stuff.
Yeah, literally for a moment, there's 0 income for Byun. That really gives you a good indication as to how this game has played out. Soulkey played a blinder of a game so far. I must say I'm really impressed. I didn't give Soulkey the benefit of the doubt on the desk, but look at how he's played out this one so far. He's gone up against the harassment. He's harassed himself. He's gonna go up against these ghosts. The majority of the ultras will die, but that will be GG for game number 1. Soulkey will take it. What a start to day number 2.
I could not have asked for a better game myself. I mean, we were talking about it before the match. Soulkey needed to step it up against an opposition like Byun, and he managed to hang on. I mean, it was a very close early game. He was on the back foot, but once he got to that mid to late game, we saw the Soulkey we know and love. There's so many Zerg players look up to that ability to defend on so many fronts, ability to multi-prong harass, and just find those big late game engagements. It was just very well played by him.
Yeah, really cool stuff there. And Byun looking slightly dejected there for a moment, but not too much of a concern just yet. It is game number 1 only here in a best of 5.
Yep.
But you do have to wonder, Soulkey put up a hell of a fight in that game. A hell of a fight.
That sort of game can shake you up a little bit. We got to remember, for Byun, he hasn't really had any LAN success for years.
True.
I mean, yeah, he's been doing great online. He knows he's a good player right now. The question for him is, can he perform at his best? And can he keep it together? And I think yesterday would have been a confidence booster for him. But I think in his mind, he says, look, you know, this is Lil Bo. Yeah, he's really good, but he's this foreign player.
Yeah.
He's like, Soulkey, I know he's an amazing player. And for him, I think the real pressure is starting here in the semifinals. So for Byun, I think he's just got to kind of calm himself down. He's got to find a way to reset his brain and just go into this next match saying, you know what, I played most of that game very, very well. Yeah, I lost it out, but let's just go in with the exact same kind of clear slate mindset. And I think he's got a very good chance of still taking the series out.
I think overall as well, Soulkey being one of the few remaining Koreans that is properly representing a European team, or a foreign team, I should say. You know, it's interesting to see how the dynamic of that plays out, because most Koreans, I mean, even Byun to a lesser degree, are still practicing in that very, very intense Korean house mindset.
Yeah.
Soulkey, where is he living right now? Do you know? Is he just in Korea, but like not in one of the houses?
I actually have no idea. I think Soulkey's, he's one of these guys who I think does practice from home, does kind of just manage himself and seems to kind of thrive in that environment. So he's a very smart player as well. I think looking at that game, he's aware that the early game with his Ling drops didn't go so well, that Byun kind of just dealt with what was going on. And I think the strength of Soulkey, I've been saying, is that he throws all these wild openings out, but in terms of how it worked out, we kind of said it in the pre-game analysis. If you're going to throw out these wonky builds, it's not always going to work against someone of Byun's caliber. So I'd love him to play a standard, very defensive, macro scouting-based game, at least one of the next 2 series, and really kind of balance things out in a much more even gameplay. I don't want him to just keep dropping Lings and trying to run Roaches and Ravages in, which is, in the last week and a half, is like 80% of his ZVTs. So
a lot of it.
I hope he does kind of chill out a little bit on some of these maps.
All right, well, we're getting on to Dust Tales for game number 2. I mean, what do you make of this map as a whole? Like, does Byun have a good shot here to bring this back? Is Soulkey in a favorable position here? What do you think?
I mean, we're going into Dust Towers, and it's such an interesting map because there is, of course, the feared bunny build that Captain Nathanius has been publicizing so much. You know, that's something that is in the back of every player's mind. So going into this map, Soulkey's got to be thinking about the threat of Liberators on this map. Even without range, they've got a lot of angles they can come in from and be annoying. There was that, single Liberator or 2 that was very annoying last game. Otherwise, though, besides the threat of that, I think this map's great for Zerg. It's, so big, so straightforward. You can scout relatively easily. There's lots of angles coming with Overlords. There's so much rush distance. So I think Soulkey is going to be pretty confident on this map.
Are you taking your hatchery outside and then going to the inside later on to get your creep spread going?
100% of the time against Terran. Soulkey will do that 100%. There's no real risk to it. proxy 3-racks Marine SCV rush is not really the most popular thing right now. You know, if you don't drone scout or send an overlord to check for it, yeah, you could technically lose a game to it. But I don't think someone of Soulkey's caliber is too worried about that.
No, not so much. Not so much. We're just getting loaded up into the second game here, taking a small moment longer than we were anticipating. But Byun probably welcomes the slight rest, reset his mind a little bit, because it's not like that was any kind of fluke of a game there from Soulkey. That was a well thought out, methodical game there that he bore the brunt of the aggression. And it can be very difficult in times like that when there are 3 or 4 engagements going on across the entirety of the map to keep your composure. And Soulkey did great.
Exactly. I mean, one thing we could criticize Soulkey for last game is once things got messy, and I mean, everyone makes mistakes when you're in such a messy game, but he didn't really respread his creep particularly well. I think he got very lucky that Beyond Scans didn't take out the active tumors early on.
I think even the initial creep wasn't spectacular, but it was there, right?
It was there.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Game number 2, as we have spawning down to the south. It is our Red Terran representing X Team. It is Byun. Looking to come back here in this best of 5. And up to the top, we have our blue Zerg representing TCM. It is Soulkey.
Got to have a big confidence boost after that game 1. I think that's probably one of the best sort of games to win as a player, when you're on the back foot and you're kind of fighting in this really down and dirty, messy situation, and then you kind of come back and you tear your opponent's economy apart with this like 2-pronged counterattack and then capitalizing and crush their army from all sides. Like that's one of the best feelings for Soulkey. So he's got to really ride that energy now, and I think it's going to give him a lot of confidence going into this map.
And we're going to have gas opener here from Byun to start things off as well. So potentially just the straight over to Reaper and then just poking around, see what's going on. Always want the information, and Reaper can get the information as to when the 3rd hatchery's gone down and what's actually going on with gas, etc.
Exactly, and just a hatch gas pool coming out here for Soulkey. Very typical opening as well. So Reaper's quite common here, into expand, of course. What are some other builds? We've been talking about Liberators, but I was talking earlier about how Terran players, you know, they like to do some aggressive pushes. Now, something which is rather niche, but Byun might pull out, is actually Marine tank push. A lot of players have been doing this off 2 base, and there is a very cute area, actually just down out front your kind of frontal base.
Where am I looking?
Where, just up here to around that ledge where you can drop the tank on the high ground, the middle ground, or the low ground. And repositioning those with medevacs can get very awkward, especially against a slower roach-based army. So if someone's opening up with roaches, roach ravager, they don't have roach speed yet, a push there can actually just completely end the game. Yeah. So that may be something Byun opts for, as Soulkey has traditionally favored a lot of roach ravager play on this map.
Reaper's going to head on across the map and not be spotted. I mean, it's kind of anticipated here, one would say, from Soulkey, as he'll have a few lings on out. The queens are about to pop, and he's getting himself speed as well. No huge rush over to that 3rd base, but if he tried to go up the ramp, he would have instantly been attacked there for a moment. KDA charge tries to go off on this drone. Doesn't really do too much. Save the drone. He's okay.
Don't hurt the drone, kids.
Poor little guy.
Reaper just being as annoying as possible. Great pullback micro from Soulkey, pulls back the low hit point Zergling, and doesn't want to lose any of those, and that's just great micro. It's a long distance map, so the Reaper takes a little bit longer to get here, which is why Soulkey knows, you know, if he builds just 4 Zerglings, he can basically micro them around to buy time for those queens, and he's never going to lose them.
Yeah.
And of course, this is Soulkey's favorite opening recently, just goes straight into 2 more queens after the original 2, and that's just going to allow him to be 100% safe. And from here, sometimes he techs straight into Mutalisks off 2 base. You'll notice he's still got 1 drone mining gas, which will allow him to have that option. He might just go straight into Ravagers and so on. But I think definitely it's going to be some form of Spire into Roach-based play. That's something Soulkey loves to do. You know, either mass Roach Ravager, but sometimes he goes Ravager Zergling off the Mutalisks as well. So he's got a real weird range of play there. Byun, on the other side of things, just going to be going for that Liberator opening.
Yeah, may use that on towards the main base at the back of the mineral line there after these Hellions have done some harass. And the thing is that he placed the factory, the starport in such a way that if a Zergling poked up the ramp, it wouldn't see that starport because it's so far away. And then if he tried to go in with the Overlord, there was a Marine there to try and get rid of that that point. So Byun is really kind of covering his bases himself. Oh, Roach Warren on the way.
We do see just a second gas coming out of Soulkey. Recently, I did see him opt for a fast third gas, where off this exact same opening, he goes for a big Ravager speedling timing. Looks like he's not going to go for that this time around. And just defending there nicely with those queens. Overlord goes in. Did actually see the starport there. I'm not 100% sure. Just saw the glimpse of that.
Nice.
He doesn't know that there's no add-on on that because the barracks has the add-on. So he knows, okay, there's a starport here. You know, Liberators are an option. Viking to clear up scouts. He's going to poke in to double-check that. Look at that. Just being very sure there's no Liberator range coming out. That Overlord sees it and then turns around. Very good scouting from Soulkey. Not going to lose the Overlord either.
Yeah, definitely. Really cool stuff. Should be fine. And this Liberator coming in to the back of this mineral line is to be expected. Pulls away. Starts the Spore Crawler. Queen's going to have a bit of a hard time of actually reaching that without going into firing range. I'm not even sure it can get
it might be able to. Soulkey's not even trying, and this is a big loss, actually. I mean, he's got the third base up, so he's got other bases to mine from. But if you don't have that Spore ready, it can be a real problem. Losing some Zerglings at the front to those Hellions.
Yeah, look at that. The Queen actually did take some shots to that and trying to get on the extremity towards the bottom. So very finite distances, really, there that you've got to play with. But at least he's got the Spore Crawler now finished.
And what we can say is much better from Soulkey this game is he's droning up quite hard. He's already at 50 drones, adding double Evo chamber, going up above that count, adding more gases. And this is what I wanted to see from Soulkey. I was saying I'd love him to see him play this, you know, solid defensive style. It looks like he's opting for it now, deflecting that Liberator. And it looks like he's locked everything down now. And this is the dream as a Zerg player. It means he's going to be able to get these upgrades started, get that 3-base full saturation of drones going, and from there he can just mass roaches, take a 4th base, and basically have freedom in this mid game to do whatever he wants.
Still looking for all the Overlords, and he's actually doing a really good job of limiting the vision here of Soulkey. I mean, right now Zerg doesn't necessarily need huge amounts of vision on the end of their bases, but because he knows what aggressive units are already out there. But overall, these Hellions and Reaper have done a great job of limiting creep spread. There has been no essence of creep spread going out of here at all, and that's very important.
That is actually a really good point you bring up. I mean, we've got Marine Tank is the composition coming out of Byun. Upgrades are almost perfectly in line, but as that tank count gets higher, creep spread becomes more and more important.
Yeah.
Remember, Soulkey will have to take a 4th base if he doesn't want to just all in with Roach Ravager. And if there's no creep out there, Marine Tank pushes can get very awkward.
And Liberator even going to come and try and help out this location, but doesn't want to siege up because that Liberator would die in 3 shots of that Corrosive Bile. So going to have to relocate, maybe try and get towards the mineral line. It's much more difficult than when Ravagers are a factor here with those Liberators, of course.
Yeah, the Liberator's got to be really careful. 4th base is now going down, of course, on the right-hand side, so there's no ledge above it to abuse with siege tanks. And both players just powering up right now. Now, here we go. Okay, so there is actually, I believe, a drop coming down the top left-hand side of the map. Nope, just a Viking. But Soulkey, he's actually got an infestation pit on the way. And that says to me, he wants to go infestors with his Roach Ravager. Not going to go for the Spire. So he's not really going to have the best drop defense, but considering Byun doesn't have a lot of tempo going, he's just going to be teching up very fast and very hard here.
That Queen is going to end up dying. Oh, poor girl. And there is still... Well, should be able to kill that, so guaranteed. Can't unsiege that quickly enough. But this is the army towards the middle. I thought it was going to push a little bit further. He's going to opt to actually pick the majority of that up and try and go towards the main base. But Soulkey doesn't have any knowledge of that just yet.
This is a frightening army. There's so many Ravagers in here. Byun's got to be very careful with where he pushes. Interestingly, Soulkey just rushing straight up to Hive, completely skipping Infestors. Looks like he may want to tech into... Oh, yeah, melee upgrade on the way. He wants to go straight towards Ultralisks. It's not even a huge commitment to the Roach Ravager. It's just a bunch of Ravagers, a big count of them, and then back into the Zergling production. So that's actually a really cool way to play here. He's going to have so many Corrosive Biles. He does have +1 range on those Ravagers as well, and they're almost never going to die in the battles. Unless he gets completely rolled in a fight, those Ravagers are always going to survive, and they're constantly going to recycle their ability to use that Bile.
An attempt at going in towards the main base here, and he sees the Hive morphing in. That's very, very important here for Byun. More so even than actually doing a good amount of damage there. He's actually going to send a huge force over towards the 4th base, trying to limit his opponent during all of this, which is, again, quite important indeed, but at least he knows what to expect very soon with that Hive already on the way.
Oh, really nice snipe on the 4th.
Nice.
Does manage to get it, and he will be able to pick up and get out of there, but a little bit slow on the pickup. Does lose a few more units than he needed to. But Soulkey is going to be able to re-establish that base. Now, this is really nice posturing out of Byun. Byun just adding more tanks, adding a second factory, going towards 2-2.
Can he Can he hit a window here with these tanks? I mean, is that out of the realms of possibility here for him? Because, I mean, if the Ultralisk Cavern gets up and it gets up and running, surely he's in a bad spot, but...
Absolutely, and I think he does have a timing. Look at the supplies. They're so close right now. Equal work accounts, equal army supply. So, I mean, the upgrades are going to be great. Does Byun want to wait for 2-2? Ultras might be out if he tries to wait for that.
Yeah.
But because he's been positioning from both sides, cancelling the 4th, Soulkey right now, he's not mining efficiently because he doesn't have the 4th base down. He has no economy advantage. He's actually down on economy slightly because of mules. And he doesn't have creep spread. So Soulkey really just needs to focus on surviving for the next few minutes. But as you said, if Byun misses that timing, Ultralisks get out, things are going to get very hard very quickly.
Drops the scan, sees the extent of his opponent's army, 3 investors in with that as well. And the thing is that Corrosive Vials, yes, will slow this down. It's up to the Medivacs to control these siege tanks very, very well here. Already gets a few volleys off for just a few Marines towards the front.
Byun wants to push towards the ledge. He wants to abuse this area. Yeah, this is such a scary area to attack into as Zerg. The Ravager Bile will help out, but he's going to try and shut it down right now.
Going for it, and actually with those fungals, he actually locks down 2 of the siege tanks with the Corrosive Vials, hitting right in the middle of them as well. There's still quite a few siege tanks here though, and there's nothing to tank for these Ravagers, so even the few Marines at the front do some damage.
Nice fungal at the start of that fight, but then actually whiffing a whole bunch of biles.
He's going to get the Ultralisk Cavern as well as Kindness Plating. A brilliant pick up there while all of that was going on, and that is really going to impede Soulkey's preferences here.
Oh man, that's actually, yeah, that's a big pickup by Byun. Byun has actually done some great damage, even on the right-hand side with some siege tanks hitting that 4th base. Soulkey's economy is so stifled right now. I mean, this is huge. Soulkey's only down at 63 drones. He's down 4 workers. The only thing that Byun hasn't managed to do is secure a 4th base behind this. His 4th command center is just finishing up. He needs to go and get that landed, and to do that safely, he needs to keep applying pressure. He's coming across with more medevacs, still abusing these positions, but Soulkey has found a window to get some Zerglings across the map. If they can get some damage, that's going to do a big turnaround here.
That's 2 Widow Mines there for the defense and trying to do something with them. I mean, these 2 medevacs, well, be very useful with this frontal force if he can get there. The Zerglings were pushed away in the middle.
Oh, gotta watch out for that. Very nice biles, but actually a lot of the bio dodges the bile. Just a little bit misplaced there, but nice Zergling wraparound from behind is going to clean up that army. And now Soulkey's supply looking very scary. I mean, he's got Ultralisks, he's still got those Ravagers. We talked about those surviving for the entire game. Even though his economy is not great, I mean, how does Byun take an efficient trade against this? He's got 7 siege tanks, 4 Marauders, and 19 Marines. There are only 2 Ultralisks out right now, but soon there's going to be another 3. He doesn't have Kindness Plating on the way yet. So,
indeed.
Oh man, sniping that. If Soulkey doesn't remember that upgrade, the Marines will actually do damage to the Ultralisks, which they're not meant to do. They're meant to just tickle them. So that's a really important upgrade, and that's so important against the Marauders as well. So, I mean, Byun's got to, he's got to capitalize on that, and Soulkey needs to remember that upgrade.
I am sort of surprised, though, that Byun didn't get much more done while that Ultralisk Cavern was down. He was very, very apprehensive about pushing on in. You got to be careful in the game of StarCraft, of course, and over here towards the right-hand side, that doesn't do too much.
Huge Ling run by coming in from Soulkey at the same time. Is that going to get a lot of damage done? It's coming in towards the base. Planetary tanks and Marines, though, just shut everything down.
I was going to say, I think the only thing that took a huge amount of damage was the Zergling. that was brilliant for them. Another Ultralisk actually goes down to some of the Marauders and Marines at the front.
Good snipe on one of the Infestors, but pretty even trade there. Byun continuing to apply pressure, though. Keep in mind, there has been no Spire this entire game. These drops, Byun is just using his sheer mechanical skill right now to keep Soulkey on the back foot. He's saying, look, if you don't have a way to shut down these drops, I am going to drive you crazy with them. And right now, Soulkey feels like he's in the middle of a game of tug-of-rope or something. Like he's got people just pulling at his arms from either side. These drops will not stop annoying him.
No, nice little cleanup. Once again, Fungal Corrosive Vial combo. And even like Drilling Claws coming in here for Widow Mines. So Byun's gathering a lot of speed with his army too, but still, you've got to wonder how much these Ultralisks are going to take in terms of punishment. 6 at the moment, 7th on the way.
Oh, catching a lot of turn out.
Got to be careful. That Widow Mine's actually going to catch a lot of Zerglings at the front. That takes away some of the defensive capabilities here for this army as it moves forwards and tries to tank it up. But
good evacuate by Byun. Byun continuing to play the slow game. He's actually poking and prodding. He's got a Liberator coming into the back base. He's got a drop still position down at the 4th. Another Liberator. Oh, he's got 2 Liberators sieging up at the exact same time. Really nice move. And his army, just his bio, is posturing in the middle. At home, Byun has a huge defensive setup with tanks behind his planetary. So he's not saying, I'm going to suddenly die to a counterattack. Look at that. Another drop on the south side of the map. Byun is everywhere right now, and Soulkey just can't keep up.
No, it's like 4 or 5 attacks going on at the same time.
Oh,
he catches a great
my
bundle.
God!
Corrosive Bile catches so many of those medevacs. There's still a lot of damage being done down towards the bottom. Hatchery goes down. He's still killed off quite a few drones up towards the top there, and another drop over here. But this army here for Soulkey, I don't know if it can get much done. The snipes are coming in. They've already killed off a couple of these Ultralisks.
Oh, if those ghosts the ghosts survive as well. They're going to live to regenerate energy. And look at this, every time Soulkey retreats, he loses units. Byun got in this situation before, and he did end up losing from that. But this time around, he is being so much drop heavier because what's the difference? There's no Mutalisks alive from the mid-game. Soulkey just completely skipped that stage, rushed towards Ultralisks, and now he is down 15 workers. His bases keep on getting shut down. I mean, if he can buy a bit of time here to regenerate and kind of regain his position, he will be able to recover. But Byun actually has a huge supply lead right now, and if he realizes that and capitalizes on it, I don't think Soulkey can hold on.
No, it's going to be difficult. 125 army supply against 100 right now. Still a Liberator going ham over here. 25 workers killed. This one's got himself 7 kills. Those Corrosive Files will finish it off. Didn't need that many, but there you go. May as well make sure, as this army still looking all right here for Byun.
I mean, that's what we call like a touch, a fine perfection on your plays. Little things like adding 2 Liberators in at like 12 minutes into the game.
Oh, yeah.
And coming in from behind with those, it's just like this perfect little touch which throws your opponent off balance, and it has the potential to get massive damage done, as we saw happen this game. And oh, he's coming in with a double tank, but there's fungal bile. Oh my god!
Oh, great combos by Soulkey. Really, really well executed. Don't know if it's going to make much difference though. Those snipes are going to come in, bring down those Ultralisks. Look how well they're able to counter them if you get the right engagement. And still, Snipe's going to go down everything.
Oh, the fungal cancels the snipes. The fungal does, but...
Oh, no, Corrosive Biles properly hit the majority of that. The Ghosts are walking into Ultras, though. Got to be careful about that. Soulkey trying to hold on against this, but still, there's a lot of Ghosts alive. The Ultras will clean the majority of it up, but behind this, he's been macroing like a champ as Byun.
Byun is doing so many things perfectly up until these big fights. As he gets to the late game, Soulkey just seems to be outmaneuvering him. I mean, yes, Byun can handle these fights. He's absorbing it. He's just got too many more units coming. But that was a big blunder. Losing the tanks, losing like 8 Ghosts there. This is the sort of money he can't afford to throw away. So, I mean, if he just keeps pushing in, he should be able to overwhelm Soulkey here. He is in a commanding position, but he's just got to not panic in this late game, and he's got to be very focused on taking the correct front-on engagements.
Yeah, this could be a little bit scary as well here. He just doesn't have much army left available at all. The siege tanks are in perfect position to back all this bio up. He's going to get on once again to the most important bases here of Soulkey. And he can't even flank in. I mean, these Widow Mines are going to actually have their charge back again. There is not much left here for Soulkey. He's played a good game himself, but Byun was attacking in 4 places at once. It's so difficult to shut down.
The mid-game from Byun was perfect. It was
great.
So well played. Even though I'm critical of his late-game engagements, I mean, the way he played that mid-game was just absolutely stellar. And he has lost his 5th base SCVs to a single Ultralisk counterattack, but that doesn't matter. If he can stop this base from mining, then the game is over for Soulkey. Soulkey coming in with one last stand, but he can't quite kill the siege tanks. And it looks like Soulkey is just going to have to run away, trying to transfuse that Ultralisk, but transfuse isn't going to stop the red beam of death.
No, not at all. Snipe with its newfound purpose here in Legacy of the Void after so long. Very, very cool to see how well Byun's played this out. Getting off the Infestors, he scans up the ramp, sees very little to his name. A good fungal will shut this down for a moment, but it is only slowing inevitable doom here for Soulkey going up against this.
The single Ultralisk that Soulkey had counterattacking actually just intercepted 4 Ghosts and killed most of them before dying to the Planetary, but it's not enough.
What a game. What a series so far here. Byun ties it up 1-1. And if this entire series goes this distance, then, well, 1, my hands are going to hurt because the observing's pretty difficult, I'm finding. And 2, I am going to be hype as anything. These have been some great games.
Oh my god, they've been so fantastic. And hey, there's a reason we've always loved Zerg vs. Terran, right? And I remember being a little bit worried with Legacy. Whenever there's big changes, you think, is it going to have the same sort of back and forth action-packed dynamics that we love Zerg vs. Terran for? And watching these 2 games, it definitely will. I mean, Byun played that mid-game so damn well. He actually just looks a little bit pensive there in his booth, thinking like, oh, okay, you know, that one, it dragged on a bit. Like, Soulkey is playing really well, but guess what? I mean, I know how to play every stage of the game.
Yeah.
The early game, he's applying pressure very well, denying the creep spread, really just keeping Soulkey back. And then throughout the mid-game, he's really recognizing and adapting to what's going on. He's not just playing this kind of
one-size-fits-all build. He sees no Spire, and he's like, yeah, let's have 5 medevacs in different spots at the, the same time for the entire duration of the mid-game. Continually drop everywhere, and even with a few small blunders letting the fungal bile combo lands, I mean, Soulkey must have been going crazy that game. He's got to be so frustrated having to deal with all those drops.
I mean, I truly enjoy watching Soulkey land those fungal corrosive bile combinations, and he did get some good value out of some of them. But you're totally right. It's like, well, you don't have that Spire. I'm going to try and exploit that. As much as Soulkey has an answer, it's not the perfect answer to try and survive that kind of mid-game aggression that we're seeing from Byun.
It takes so much focus. That's something we don't talk about as much in StarCraft, is kind of focus as a resource, where your attention is at, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, landing a fungal and then a bile combo, you need at least 3 biles or 2 on top of the fungal to kill the medevacs. Like, you need a lot of attention, especially if that medevac is boosting around. You've got to be staring at it. You've got to have a spellcaster unit there, which you usually want all in one hotkey. To land that combo while you're dealing with so many situations is very taxing in of itself. So even if Byun can't babysit every drop perfectly, over time, he's almost always going to get better trades because Soulkey can't watch everywhere at once.
True enough. I know it's early over in the Western Hemisphere, but thank you very much for tuning in so far, guys. These games are pretty hyped, to say the least. To see Byun on an international stage of all people going up against Soulkey, very, very cool stuff so far. These games, I mean, have already surpassed my expectations. Like, I did not expect them to kind of go these distances, for sure. I expected them to be a bit more one-sided, firstly. I mean, I made that a little bit evident on the desk. I'm sorry, Pig. And the way Soulkey's playing, this is the most impressive I've seen Soulkey for a long time, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I mean, after watching his games versus Pult yesterday, I was a little bit... I lost some of the confidence. So, before I saw those games, I was a lot more confident about Soulkey going to the finals of this tournament. But watching these last 2 games, I'm kind of regaining some of that confidence. I do feel like he needs to focus a little bit more on creep spread and finding a way to get to that mid game without having been thrown out of his element at all. Honestly, I feel like that last game he was in a great position. I think skipping the Spire and going straight to Hive, it's an interesting way to play, but I think it was maybe a little bit too much. He might have a different mindset right now. He might just be saying to himself, you know what, there was 1 or 2 key drops which I missed, which was what actually lost me the game. Maybe he's saying, I'm going to play the exact same style all over again. But I think he's just got to find a way to control that mid game and maybe find a way to apply the pressure back onto Byun. Because Byun throughout the early stages has either completely flattened the aggression or just had no pressure put back on him.
Yeah, it's true. All right, we are going to be getting into our game number 3 in just a moment. It's going to be on Lurelac Crest here. Piggy, what do you make of it? Who are you really kind of giving sway to, if I use the same term I always give Todd?
Man, this one's going to be hard to call. Lurelac's such an aggressive map. It's a bit crazy. Plays into both their hands. Byun has a wide range of tricks, and so does Soulkey. I think this is a map where Soulkey will play more aggressive. So Byun here is going to need to be very careful to not get surprised by any sort of fancy aggression.
Yep. All right, well, we are loading on in. Takes a little while here for a moment. But getting on to game number 3. Let's do this. As we have Soulkey looking poised here. Strong Soulkey coming out so far today. Will he be able to rival Byun? As we have spot into the bottom left-hand corner, it will be our red Terran representing X Team. It is Byun.
Strong previous game there. Really controlling that game from start to finish, and has to feel good about that one.
And then up the top left-hand corner here, close by those air positions. Overall, it's our TCM Zerg. It is Soulkey.
So looking at this map, the first thing that comes to mind is the spawns. Soulkey's got to say, okay, this is not necessarily the best spawns, but it's not the worst either. I think the worst would be horizontal spawns, because the real scary point on this map is if you look at where Soulkey's third base is, and just down below that, there's that like ramp between his natural and third.
Where are we looking? This is the
just south of there. There's a really annoying point just down around this this ravine and this kind of cliff. Tank marine pushes around that piece of terrain are absolutely brutal. There are so many ways the tanks can pick up and move to another position. But because that's not the easiest path for Byun to push, it's going to be a lot easier for Soulkey to engage before he gets to that position.
Yeah.
Likewise, Soulkey can push pretty quickly towards Byun. Mutalisks will be able to get into the main very quickly. Also, he'll have a big area to drop into Byun's main base if he feels like sneaking in some Overlords and trying to drop some Zerglings in there.
What's really your strat of choice here? Is it kind of a Mutalist-based play compared to like other styles, or to really depend on the spawning positions?
I think spawns come into it a lot. I think Soulkey still loves Roach play here. Personally, I do love Ling Bane on here because there's so many wide open areas. So if you can just choose where to take the engagements, if you've always got a bit more focus on unit count rather than economy, and you're ready to engage the Terran when they move out, I think it's a great map for Zerg, especially on cross map. But it really does come down to player preference. I think Roaches and Ravages are really great for pushing up the huge wide ramp you have at the front of your natural. As a Terran player, it's actually very scary to secure your natural, from all these types of early aggression. So I think it's kind of the craziest 4-player map in terms of it just favors aggressive play. It favors wonky play. Yeah. There's lots of cool different things you can do, and it really comes down to a player-by-player preference.
Well, Byun poked in there with his Reaper, saw his opponent's spawning location, and decided, well, I'm just going to go chill out, making sure that there's not going to be any Zerglings coming to wrap around and deny this command center for actually being taken after seeing the hatchery timing that was occurring on the other side. So, good little move here by Byun. He wants to play this defensively, doesn't want to overextend with his initial unit.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have talked a bit about Soulkey's opening. He's been favoring this like really fast, gas pool, just going fast Zergling speed, getting his queens up. It allows him to be very, very safe, from any sort of aggression. And he is actually, once again, as we were talking about, going for the Evo Chamber, going for the Zerglings. We talked about there being a lot of drop area, but he's got to be careful. That Marine... Oh, Byun spots it! Byun spotted it. The Overlord moved too close on the cliff, and the Marine actually moved to react, and Byun now knows that that's an opportunity. So he's just going to shut that down. The Zergling coming in the front, doing a bit of damage here. They are going to catch the Reaper at the front, but quite a few of those Zerglings have gone down already. And, oh wow, actually Byun doesn't even have any Hellions out yet, and he's going to build a tech lab on his factory and a medevac. Oh my, looks like he actually is going to say, look, you know what, building Hellions one at a time is such a bad way to deal with this. Instead, I'm just going to get siege tanks, get Marines and medevacs, and yeah, I'm going to lose mining on my natural for a while. But the moment I push you back, guess what? You've delayed your tech a lot, and I've got tanks and medevacs. I'm going to come in there, I'm just going to harass the hell out of you with those tank drops. Yeah. And I don't think Soulkey is going to have an answer for it.
This is kind of cool. Overall, to see how this has gone down. I mean, the Zerglings did spot the starport, so at least he's getting himself spore crawlers behind this to kind of get away from everything that is going on at the front. And at least also he's alleviated pressure for himself, so his potential, well, as that Overlord goes down to the bottom, at least the potential for his creep spread to flourish a bit better than the other two games is there.
I mean, okay, the natural still hasn't landed. I got to change what I said about Soulkey not having an answer. Like, the amount of economy Byun has lost from having that natural lifted for so long is actually crazy. I don't know if he's going to have enough units to really contest with this sort of 2-base push, which he'll probably be opting for. It's going to be a little bit hard, and that's why this medevac is so important. Like, he needs to do damage. He needs to pick off Overlords. He needs to annoy Soulkey. But if Soulkey, I mean, with this huge Zergling count, like, he should be able to just wrap around those Marines. He's got Queens. This shouldn't be able to cancel his third or anything like that. I think Soulkey is still in a very good position.
Double Evolution Chamber as well as Roach Warren as this drop gets attacked but not cleaned up just yet. Byun can keep just bouncing into the space. Queen's going to reposition itself, but again, at least the creep spread has the opportunity towards the front, while Byun is kind of bringing in a Liberator over towards the left-hand side.
Soulkey, if he responds quickly with the Spore Crawler, I mean, that's a poorly placed Spore Crawler. He should know there's no Banshees coming. That Liberator could get some good damage done. And Soulkey is going to lose mining time. Can't really afford that right now. He's down in supply. The tank count, he's going to lose a Queen as well. Okay, Byun just does pull out of there. Continuing to be annoying. Byun just poking and prodding from all sides.
Yeah.
And Soulkey, he's tried to go in for the double Evo Chamber here, but he can only afford one upgrade right now. He's been slowed down a lot by this pressure, so I think this is a really good counterplay out of Byun. And Byun now adding Stim, adding +1 weapons on his bio. Doesn't look like he wants to rush with a 2-base push. He has stopped tank production for the moment, but he's going to be starting that up again soon. He's already starting the Marine production. He will be adding medevac soon and going right up to 5 barracks production on 2-base. So Byun is just saying, I'm going to play 2-base this entire game. And if I can slow you down enough with these pokes, these drops that just keep doing damage, then I'm going to be in a good position. You're not going to be able to stop that drop. Soulkey right now has got to be really annoyed at his inability to deal with this drop. He's got to just leave these Zerglings here and just guard this mineral line.
I suppose it's knock-on effects really for Byun, unfortunately for him. It's like, because he made so many Zerglings early on, and they did quite a bit, but it could have potentially been drones, and now it even being knocked on towards the third base, and still the Liberator being irritating. Is this really just going to get this queen down towards the bottom?
I think the queen actually wins that.
Oh.
No, barely does actually take that queen down. This is so annoying from Byun. You know, the Liberator doesn't add that much in a frontal fight, but look at this. Wasting more mining time, picks off a drone, picks off a couple lava.
He's only got one queen, is the thing. Across 3 hatcheries, he's only got one queen, so it's not even just picking off lava. It's actually, he's losing significant amounts because he just doesn't have the queens available.
I mean, how's he going to stop this push? There's 2 tanks out, 3 tanks out. He's got 3 medevacs, and he's got a big ball of Marines with Stim about to finish. Of course, he doesn't have combat shields. That is going to make them a little bit weaker, but guess what? Like, yeah, you've got 1-1 speed roaches that'll be finished in time, but you're going to have, like, what, 8 roaches or something? I mean, this is just going to be so powerful for Byun, and I think Soulkey's just fallen apart a little bit. He had Zerglings out, he had Queens out, a single Liberator and a medevac with, like, 6 Marines in it has single-handedly done so much damage to him. And I don't think that's really acceptable. Soulkey, he's got to be so frustrated with himself right now for letting all that happen.
Didn't get the active creep tumors onto the right-hand side, but got a lot to open up this path. If he's aggressive right now with this, there is definitely the potential of him actually gouging into the territory of the Zerg, and he's going to lose another Overlord over here without supply block him almost.
Oh, yeah. And oh, my God. Byun is just being so patient, knowing that he's continuing to do damage. Oh, fails with the pickup there a little bit, loses a few Marines, but he's got his 5th tank about to pop. He doesn't have combat shields started yet. This is actually oh, there we go. He's just starting. He's just realized Byun, bit of an issue there, but I honestly think he should just push right now anyway. There's going to be so hard for Soulkey to hang on, especially with his creep spread being so stunted. We pointed out in that previous first game of the set, he's not respreading his creep. And because he lost all those queens, he just didn't even have the option to do it. So here comes that push. How the hell is Soulkey going to stop this? He's going to need a great positioning.
At least those 2 active creep tumors that he had previously have spread a small little bitty bit, but not enough. Nowhere near enough. This is going to be difficult. He only really has about 20 roaches, a few Ravagers in there with that as well, but no proper lockdown like he had in the previous games there with Infestors to actually help that out. That's a massive amount of Marines as well. Every single push in, he has to be so careful about how long he stays there for.
Yeah, a lot of energy on those medevacs, healing those Marines up very quickly from that stim damage. Getting into the mineral line, already 1 base mining is denied. Soulkey struggling here, trying to set up his roaches in a huge flank. He's going to try and come in on one side, but there's just too many Marines, even without the tank support. And each time he walks into that tank fire, he is taking a huge amount of splash damage. He's trying to utilize Burrow.
If he could get the Roach Warren and 2-2, that would be huge here as well for Byun. I mean, he's already in a great position. Never mind if he was able to get those. Gets pushed away, though. He realizes this is a big deal. He's actually trying to burrow in with some of these roaches on towards the siege tanks. He actually gets quite a few of them. This could be a brilliant move, but there's still too many Marines here for Byun towards the front, and they will push this back again.
Yeah, when Zerg's down 20 supply and they're going roaches, it's never a good sign. There is just too much Terran here. Byun playing the counter harassment so well. And what great decision-making from Byun this game. He saw the Ling Flood and he said, guess what? I can lose mining on my natural. I don't care, because I am just going to put on counter pressure you with my better tech. I'm not going to sit here building Hellions. I'm going to go straight up to a tank. And from there, he just played that mid-game beautifully.
Very well done, GG. Byun takes the lead in this series, 2-1 now. And, whew, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with the way the Liberator and that first initial Marine drop was coming in. Never let up. Never let up. I mean, even though the Liberator wasn't getting massive damage done, it was enough to allow the Marines in that medevac to run rampant.
Exactly. I mean, you got a 40 drone economy as Zerg. You lose half your mining time on a mineral line, and then the Liberator gets away. You haven't even shut it down. Like, that's really frustrating. And he just kept doing it. And I mean, the way that drop did damage, it felt like when I'm having a bad day on ladder, and you have that game, and you're just like, this drop shouldn't be doing this much damage, and it can actually like hurt your brain a bit. You can see Soulkey there holding his lip. He's just kind of like, how the hell did I let that happen? Like, that shouldn't be happening to a player of my caliber. So I think he's got to kind of pull himself together there. He's getting a bit of advice, and he's got to kind of just get on point with that.
That was really cool stuff to see out of Byun. And the thing is I feel that he's a player in these longer best ofs that slowly is gathering momentum throughout the series as it goes along. Game 1, yeah, okay. didn't end up winning that one, but Soulkey brought out a brilliant performance. Game 2, aggression, aggression, aggression. Game 3, really great early on aggression. Is there anything that Soulkey could have done differently against that initial aggression there from Byun in this game, or was it just Byun?
I think it was really fine points. I mean, I honestly think you don't have that much maneuverability as Byun. He did do everything right. He picked up the Marines when the Zerglings were there, moved them to a new location. He was always on point with that, but I think the onus is on the Zerg player to make mistakes, and Soulkey definitely gave him those mistakes. He was picking up the, his Zerglings just weren't underneath the drop. It would move somewhere. Soulkey got distracted by the Liberator, so suddenly it dropped somewhere else and killed 3 or 4 drones. And, that can add up over time as there's soft toys flying across the casting desk right now. But,
it's adorable. Bless it. Oh, I'll leave him there.
There's some really cool things at this convention, but you can see the pressure on Soulkey's face right now. That says it all. Just that expression there. He's taking a big deep breath, and he's kind of like, just calm down after that. Don't let that happen again.
He understands it's a severe situation. That's what I mean. He knows that Byun is for real. And it's one of the big reasons why we came in on the desk and everyone was unanimous with Byun being able to take this.
Yeah.
You not as much as me and Todd, of course, but I mean, you're Zerg, you've got to do that, I understand.
I still said 3-1 to Byun, and right now it is 2-1 to Byun, so he's definitely on the road to victory right now.
Didn't you say 3-2? Did you change?
I don't know. One of those. I was kind of on the fence between, so I could have said either one.
I have selective hearing. Sorry, buddy. So I just believe what I want to believe.
Sorry, I'll check the VOD later and I'll claim it if I was right. Otherwise, we'll just forget about it.
Perfect. Well, Arena is going to be our next map here, Piggly Wiggly. So this is, I mean, everyone knows it by now. It's one of the more interesting maps in our map pool. So
yep, Bly Heaven, as people were calling it at DreamHack. You know, it's a crazy map, and if you're a crazy player, you thrive on here. Honestly, to be brutally honest, I think Soulkey needs to play very different to how he's been playing this map in the past. Yep. I've studied a lot of his VODs. I was not impressed with his ZVT on this map. I felt like he was almost never ahead in workers against Terran players.
Right.
And he was building way too many units early on in the game and not getting any damage done with them. So I think he needs to commit harder to economy or harder to his aggression and not go for this kind of weird middle-of-the-road build. Because what we've seen in the past from him here is 17 gas or 17 pool, both of those, dropping his hatchery on 18 supply, and then just building like 20 speedlings almost immediately and not really doing much with them other than chasing the first Reaper away.
Right.
And that really handicaps your economy. And if the Terran player just slows the play down a little bit, doesn't throw any units away, you're simply behind. So I want to see Soulkey come out here with something we haven't seen from him before and hopefully play a bit more of a solid game.
Well, we are just waiting in the loading screen at the moment here. Once again, taking a small moment longer. But Byun looking on point and good to go through to the finals right now if he wins one more map, where he would face off against either SOS or Hero, both IEM champions in the past from the Intel Extreme Masters. And that will be an interesting one, to say the least. But the thing is that I feel Protoss right now is in a great spot in Legacy of the Void. Despite the Adept nerf, I still think that they were already applying a multitude of different things to deal with both Terran and Zerg. So it's quite cool to see Protoss being that well-rounded.
Yeah, I mean, whichever one of these players go through, I'm very curious to see how those Protoss changes do play out in both matchups, PVT and PvZ, because it's a big difference. It changes things up a lot. I mean, Protoss's ability to handle aggression as well with the pylon overcharge is very changed.
That's the big one for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're on top of a base and they've only got 2 pylons, like, if they just overcharge those pylons, you can focus them down before, too much can happen. So it can actually get out of control very quickly.
All right, into game number 4 now. Finally, as our loading screen has finished, we have one of our observers dropping, but that doesn't matter. As we have spawning to the bottom of the left-hand corner, it will be our red Terran representing X team. It is Byun.
Byun looking powerful in that last game. Has to just keep it together here and try to close this set out before it goes to map 5.
And then up to the top left, we have our blue Zerg representing TCM. Maybe for the last game today, it is Soulkey looking to bring it back.
He's got to bring something special out. You always need to do something special on Arena. So Soulkey, he's got his his mission ahead of him, and it looks like he is going to do what I wanted him to do and just go for a hatch first. Thank you, Soulkey. I'm very happy he's chosen to do this. I think you can definitely still defend the Reaper aggression, quite well with a nice 17 or maybe even 18 spawning pool.
Yeah.
So I think Soulkey's going to have a much more solid economy, and I'd still love for him to do some crazy aggression off this. I think it works great here. But now that he's got a much more solid economy than what he's had in his past matches, I think he's going to be in a much better stead.
Of course, if you are unfamiliar with this map, this is one of the big focal points of this map, this small little bridge lit through the middle, which means that the rush distances can be almost Steps of War-esque.
Yeah, that's the little bridge where Darth Vader told Luke that he was his father.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And then he got blocked by a supply depot or pylon and then didn't fall off. So, bless the guy.
Yeah, right now we actually do see, gas pool coming out for Soulkey, Reaper on the way for Byun. Very typical opening. So this is cool to see. Neither player is just kind of YOLOing across the map with, a proxy barracks marine pool or an early pool or anything too crazy. Of course, because the rush distance is so fast, someone like Soulkey often opts for on these rush distance maps is just dropping a roach horn very soon after the spawning pool and going straight into a big bunch of roaches and going across that map and applying heavy pressure. We'll have to wait a moment to see if he does it here, but of course the Reaper for Byun is going to be making his way out and he's going to forage into the Zerg's base for some information.
He'll be over there in a jiffy, and there are a few Zerglings as well as 2 Queens on the way. So which we'll be able to show him in just a bit. But what's going on the other side for Byun? Getting that factory down, reactors on the way. Could be the Hellions again, to be honest with you.
Yeah, second gas as well. So pretty typical opening. Definitely does make sense to do that. Could still go Tech Lab and into a starport, and of course go for that tank evac. Tank push is so powerful across that middle bridge. Meanwhile, we see just the everyday spectacular control from both of these players. Soulkey does lose a Zergling this time. Notice he does build 6 Zerglings rather than 4 on the big maps like Dust Towers. Very slight adjustment from Soulkey, knowing he needs a couple more Zerglings to keep the Reaper at bay. And it's those cute tiny adjustments which really do separate a player like Soulkey from your average ladder hero.
And Soulkey's going to have to work if he wants to spot that starport all the way to the back. Does he know that it's 2 gases? No, he doesn't. So still kind of wants to poke in there and spot what's going on.
Yeah, Widowmine's on the way. All he really needs to see is the barracks with the reactor still on it to know, like, hey, this isn't Hellions. The Overlord on the back doesn't really see too much there. But it's very important you see this sort of drop coming. I feel like this sort of drop, if the Zerg sees it coming, is so weak. Like, if there's Zerglings and a Spore Crawler down, like, it just does nothing. But if the Zerg isn't ready for it, a Widowmine Marine drop can get out of control so quickly, because that Widowmine, is so annoying to deal with, especially if it gets time to recharge before your Spore Crawler finishes. The Marines can focus down Queens. So this is a really nice kind of middle-of-the-road aggressive poke build from Byun. And behind that, he'll most likely just be going into, probably tanks, maybe Liberators, adding a 3rd command center. It's usually a very typical follow-up from this build.
Spotted the layer in with that Reaper as well, and didn't really spot too much gas in the process of that, but both are going to get taken on these 2 bays, so we may see a Spire go down. That Widowmine actually relocated from behind that command center, realizing it was only a few Zerglings, and didn't really want to do much with it.
Okay, I think Soulkey realizes what's up. He's building a few more Zerglings, building a Spore Crawler. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly the reaction you need here.
Yeah.
2 Spore Crawlers. He's going to be completely safe against this. That's going to be really good. Liberator coming in behind it as well isn't going to do too much. The drop does come in now and sees the Spore Crawler and says, we're going to stay in there. So that's just going to poke around. 3rd command center does go down. So no damage done yet for Byun. Very good defense from Soulkey. Fantastic scouting with that Zergling, getting it in to kind of verify what was going on before. But he doesn't have a 3rd base. Remember, he's going for 2 base muta. This is exactly the sort of player I was criticizing him before, saying on these short rush distance maps, mutas don't have a lot of space to work with. They don't have the ability to really get these big counterattacks in, because by the time the opponent moves out, he's already at your base. So these Mutalisks really are a transitionary point. If he gets 5 or 6 of them out, shuts down the Liberator, shuts down the Medevac, and then just goes straight back into whatever his normal ground-based style is, that can work for Soulkey, but it's going to leave him with a very exposed force in the early mid-game. But that actually shouldn't worry him, because there's 2 engineering bays. There's barracks going up. Byun's going massive macro follow-up, so this is actually going to work out perfectly for Soulkey. Soulkey getting the better end of the build orders here for sure.
He's really done a great job of denying this medevac from doing pretty much anything over the other side. I mean, looking at the workers lost, 0 and 0. So Soulkey is doing very well indeed. 58 to 46 workers at the moment. 3rd command center is done behind this for Byun, but not actually morphed into that command center. Sorry, orbital command, I should say.
it is kind of a smart adjustment by Byun, saying if you're going to have mutas out, I don't want to be overly aggressive and I want to go straight to the upgrades, the third base, because he doesn't feel like there's any option for that big, strong sort of Roach Ravager push or anything like that. If you're investing in the fast mutas, you know, Soulkey is only now finishing his third base as the Orbital's finishing up for Byun. So Byun's just going to try and play it really slow, and once he gets 1-1, once he gets Stim, Combat Shields, Marines, all that sort of stuff out, that's when he might start poking around, pushing back the creep. And I think when 2-2 finishes, if Byun has survived to that point without being molested at all, he's really just going to try and do what we've seen every game. Hey, you're getting towards Hive Tech? I'm going to start shoving in hard on multiple angles. I'm going to slide some drops in while pushing the front, and you're going to have a really tough time dealing with that. Once again, we see Byun being so adaptable in how he's playing. He's just changing it up every game, adjusting to how Soulkey is playing. And I really feel like Byun's just the reactive one in these games, and it's a real switch up from what we normally see in Zerg vs Terran.
Yeah, and whereas in Heart of the Swarm, kind of like having these Mutalisks out and about would be all good and dandy, in Legacy of the Void, with Liberators being there, they do a huge amount of AoE damage to the air if you're not careful. So you've got to, in essence, magic box your Mutalisks if you're actually going to go into an engagement like that.
Look at those burrowed Banelings. Oh my god, if this works. Soulkey purposely hasn't spread creep down this hallway. Because he knows he's not going to take a front-on fight here. Oh my god.
He just barely skirted around, though.
Soulkey is so annoyed that he moved to the Watchtower right now. He's like, no, you're meant to move straight across.
Yeah.
And Soulkey doesn't have any Banelings up.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, this is exactly what we were talking about with him not having a lot of units for this mid-game push.
No, he could do huge damage. He needs everything. He actually even needs to unburrow those Banelings to the back. He actually got some good connections.
The Liberator splash just obliterates the mutas. Only one Liberator going down for 6 Mutalisks. He's being forced to build more mutas here, but Soulkey is in complete disarray. And oh my god.
To be fair, at least some of the Banelings got a lot of those Marines behind that, so it was kind of an okay trade, but with losing that much gas invested in Mutalisks against only Marines dying off, that's big, really big.
Oh man, he's down like 20 supply right now. Soulkey is down. He's even on Workers, which is a position you never want to be against Terran. And I mean, this is just, it's the map. We were talking about it. And I was actually talking a bit with yourself and Todd before, you know, the cast started today about how Soulkey sometimes on these smaller maps, he just goes for mutas and he's just a bit too greedy and he's not ready for the pushes that come out. Like, he's got to play a little bit safer when he's playing against someone of Byun's caliber. Byun just pushing out with that crisp 1-1 medevac timing and just shutting him down, doing a lot of damage, killing off a lot of those expensive Mutalisks. And now Soulkey finds himself in a very hard position.
Totally, and it's a great macro setup for Byun as well. I keep calling him Byun, I'm terrible with that. It's a great macro setup for him. He's got his double Liberators on the way at any time. He saved these two, which were so low on health. And there is going to be an attempt at a counterattack, but
you got to do that as Soulkey right now. I mean, you're not winning a front-on fight. There's double Liberator production because all the medevacs survived before. Just a little bit late on that Burrowed Bomb. Only gets about 5 Marines for those 2 Banelings. Nice counterattack running into the third, though. Is going to force the evacuate. Byun going for the throat, realizing his Liberator and Marines in the bunker can hold it home. And look at this great setup between the rally points. Soulkey has nothing to deal with his 6 Banelings and 6 Mutalisks. Oh, great connections. But there's still so many Marines left over.
A lot of Banelings trying to morph in on this left-hand side. They need to get in there, but likewise, the Liberators need to set up so they can actually greet some of this. He also needs to make sure that those Mutalisks don't do too much. He gets up towards the drone line. They're going to die off very quickly. He separates up some of these Marines as well against the Banelings, knowing that the majority of them are going to die.
Oh, the Mutalisks are so clumped. Once again, he loses all of his Mutalisks for a single Liberator.
Here come more reinforcements as well. There were a lot of SCVs with this, a little bit of a misclick there. Byun knows that he is on the warpath to actual victory and move on to the finals, and there you go. GG. Byun will take the series 3-1. And he finds himself in the final of one of the first international tournaments in forever that we've seen him at.
Look at how happy he is. You can just feel the emotion. I mean, it's been years and years since he's played well, and he's never been to a finals like this before, so that's massive. He's played it so well. You can see the relief on his face. I love it when a player gives us a reaction like that, giving us a nice fist bump. Byun just with stellar play there. He played that so damn well.
His investment into Legacy of the Void has certainly paid dividends. Look at how well he's able to play, not only in Korea, but also when he's on this international stage as well, against some great players. Soulkey, we didn't see him properly that much in 2014. 2015 wasn't great for him either, but he looked good today, but Byun just looked that much better.
Yeah. I mean, we said Soulkey would need to step it up against Byun. He did. He did step it up a notch. Those first 2 games were amazing. But at the end of the day, he does go down 1-3. And, you know, it's a hard loss for him to swallow. But
he's going to be back, and I'm sure he'll be back stronger than ever.
Great showing indeed there for Byun to move on to the grand finals, and that puts him in a great spot. Now he knows he has to worry about just Terran versus Protoss, which, I mean, of course, they're great Protoss players that he's going to be going up against, so depending on who goes through from that in that hype PvP, the rematch for the ages, we shall see.
He's just got to prepare himself mentally now. I mean, it's always hard going out as Soulkey has here, but Byun, looking forward to that finals. And the next match, of course, will be the PvP, as you said, and that's going to be the really interesting one.
All right then, well, we are done here at the Casters Desk. Let's head over to the analysis desk to see what we can get from Mr. Byun.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. Yes, we are joined on the desk by Byun. Congratulations, Byun.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. First of all, we have to ask, how does it feel? We saw a lot of smiles in the booth, Susie. Who's also joining us, by the way. Forgot to say that. Hello, Susie. Welcome.
Hello.
I mean, he was obviously overjoyed at that win, surely.
아까 딱 우승한 순간에 웃음이 막 나오는 것 같았었는데 그 순간에 대해서 어떻게 생각을 하는지.
근데 저는 평소에 그러니까 평소 연습 게임에서도 이기면 이렇게 웃거든요.
He said even when he plays ladder at home, he celebrates just like that and like smiles really huge anyway. So he was like, it's just a natural kind of reaction.
All right, here's a very simple question. Can you ask him to move his mic a little bit higher up?
이거 마이크를 조금 더 입 앞으로.
네.
Okay, 됐다. Okay.
All right, that's my second question done, Todd.
Great first impression you're making on the I want to ask him a little bit about the games, and we're going to start with game number 1 on Runes of Ceres. He wasn't really doing too much damage with his drops and harassment at first, and we went into a longer game where we saw Ultras and Ghosts make an apparition. So I was wondering how he felt about this kind of situation where he has to use Ghosts very well, because he was doing very good at first, but then all of a sudden kind of fell apart and lost the game pretty much instantly. So what do you think about that situation?
그 첫 번째 게임에 이제
네.
유령이랑 울트라랑 같이 붙었을 때 처음에는 되게 잘하고 이길 것 같다고 생각했는데
네.
끝에 가서는 안 됐었잖아.
네.
그거에 대해서 조금 얘기해 줄 수 있어?
아, 네. 저도 처음에 딱 유령 쓰는 거 보고 오늘 잘 된다 딱 생각했어요. 근데 세 번째 멀티에서 가스를 제가 안 먹고 있었어요. 모르고 실수로. 그래서 유령이 처음 나간 유령 말고 더 가스가 없어서 더 안 나왔어요. 그래서
Okay, he said actually his third multi he forgot to get gas, and so as soon as he was able to bring the ghosts out, he said, "Okay, I think I got this. This is fine. Everything's great." Then he pushed and then realized I can't make any more, and so that's where the mistake happened.
Okay, in the next map on Dusk's Towers, we saw a similar game that headed into a similar situation, but at first, Soulkey was playing with Roach Ravager as opposed to Ling Muta. Does he prefer playing against one style over the other? And why was he able to do so well this time around? Because he won that game very convincingly with Ghost again.
Okay, 이제 게임 2에서는 솔키 선수가
네.
그 괴멸충
네네.
그거를 하고 그 스타일이랑 같이 붙는 것이 좋은지.
네. 그래서 1경기 때는 뮤탈 쓰셨잖아요. 근데 김민철 선수가 그 괴멸중 자주 쓰시는데 1경기는 뮤탈 쓰셔서 좀 당황해서 진 것 같고 2경기는 그 괴멸충 상대로만 연습했거든요, 제가. 네. 근데 뮤탈 그보단 상대하기 편한 것 같아요. 지금 테란이.
Okay, he thinks the Roach Ravagers are definitely easier to face against than the Mutalisks, and he had practiced actually quite a lot for that. So game 1, when he saw the Mutalisks, he said, I think that's why I lost, was I didn't expect that. But coming into game 2, as soon as he saw the Ravagers, he was like, yeah, I got this.
Okay, our commentator, Pig, classified or mentioned Byun as a very reactive player in this series as opposed to much more so than Soulkey. Does he agree with that statement, and does he think it's maybe one of his bigger strengths in his style, maybe?
그 피그라는 커멘테이터가
네.
되게 솔키 선수보다는
네.
감정적으로
네.
게임을 더 잘하는 것 같다. 좀 딱 상황을 보고 상황을 맞춰서 하는 게임을 더 잘하는 것 같다고 생각을 하는데
네.
본인은 그거에 대해서 어떻게 생각하는지.
근데 그게 좀 저는 다른 게 제가 김민철 선수보다 좀 실력이 떨어진다 생각하거든요. 근데 그 빌드 우위나 그런 게 있어요. 그러니까 그게 좀 잘 맞아 떨어져가지고 오늘은 그래서 이긴 것 같아요.
Okay, he said actually I think of myself as a player that's not as good as Soulkey, and so I think all the builds that I prepared just happened to work really well today, and so he came in more than reactionary. It was more of a very prepared kind of kind of game.
Actually, I'm glad he says that because the next map was Lear La Crest with vertical close position. And he did like a 2-base harassment that went so well. Like, that was some of the best micro out of the Liberator and Medivac that I've seen. And behind this, just the 2-base attack that he went for just seemed like unstoppable. What does he attribute this to? Does he think maybe that Soulkey was playing a little bit worse from that point?
그 이제 마지막 경기에는 보면은 뭐 스폰이 되게 가까웠었잖아.
네네.
그래서 그거 보고 되게 이제 공격을 조금씩 하면서 이제 게임을 되게 잘 풀려 나간 것 같은데.
네.
John, I lost the last part of your question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, does he think that this kind of push is was going to be able to do so well? And does he think that maybe Soulkey played a little bit worse in that game?
그러면 이제 세 번째 경기가 그런 방식이 이 맵에 되게 유일한 것 같이 생각을 하는지, 그리고 게임 4 때는 솔키 선수가 좀 더 게임을 못했다고 생각을 하는지.
이게 그 김민철 선수가 그 맵은 되게 가깝잖아요. 근데 그 먼 맵에서 하는 것처럼 한 거예요. 그래서 제가 그냥 저는 평소대로 공격을 갔는데 그 더 가까우니까 더 빨리 도착하니까 그거에 좀 당황해서 끝난 것 같아요.
He feels that the way that Soulkey was playing this map was as if the two bases were very far apart, and so he prepared for this map, was able to build as he wanted. Went in for an attack. Obviously, the attack was a lot quicker than Soulkey expected, and so he feels that the game really unraveled very well from there.
Okay, and then game number 4, Arena, the final game. Soulkey seemed to be wanting to play again with Mutas and Zerglings, and we saw Byun attack at like a weird moment. Like I didn't feel like this attack is particularly supposed to do a lot of damage or kill Soulkey. So what was his thought process before going for this? And did he think he was going to be able to be this successful with the one attack he went for?
그 마지막 경기 때 이제 다시 뮤타랑 저글링이 나왔을 때 좀 변 선수가 좀 이상한 어택을 했다고 말씀을 하시는데,
네.
what was the attack at the time that you're talking about?
It was like with a couple liberators. I think there were 3 that he had kept alive, and like a bunch of bio and
해방선
medivacs.
3개랑 좀 바이오 이렇게 같이 간 것 같았다고 하는데,
네.
그거에 대해서 좀.
이게 김민철 선수가 세 번째 원티를 안 먹고 바로 레어 번식지 레어를 가셨잖아요. 그래서 뮤탈이 빨리 나와요. 그러면 그래서 해방선을 3개까지 찍어 놓는데 이게 가만히 있으면 손해잖아요. 그래서 그냥 한번 공격 가봤는데.
He said he kind of knew what Soulkey was doing. He was going for the Mutalist, and he was just like, well, you know, I already had 3 Liberators sitting there, and I didn't want just them sitting there, so I just sent them out and saw what would happen, and so that's what he did.
Does Byun realize how many international fans he has? Because he's actually got quite a big following.
그 해외 팬들 엄청 많다라는 거 알고 있는지 보는요?
아니요, 몰라요. 처음 듣는 소리.
He's like, this is the first time I've heard that.
Okay. Second question. Where has he been? What has he been doing over the last couple of years? Because he really hasn't been active playing StarCraft.
갑자기 없어졌다가 다시 나타난 선수인데
네.
그 몇 년 동안 뭘 하고 지냈는지.
이건
궁금하다고.
그러니까 한국에서도 이런 질문 되게 많이 받았는데요.
He gets asked this a lot in Korea too.
Okay, I got a question.
Oh, he's gonna answer.
Okay,
Let him answer. Yeah.
네, 비밀이에요.
All right, no, never mind. He said it's a secret.
Oh, but does he realize that all these fans that he's got internationally, they always say when everyone asks where's Byun, they say he's in Kesper jail. And has he ever heard of that
그런
before?
말 들어봤어?
네,
다들 비언
He said that.
어디면은 캐스퍼 감옥사에 들어있다고.
Okay, he said it. All right, thank you very much, Susie. Congratulations, Byun. Best of luck in the finals. Todd, last question.
Yeah, I had a question related to this. Actually, he has 4,300 followers on Twitter, and he's never tweeted. Does he know how Twitter works?
트위터에 지금 팔로워가 4,000명이 넘는데 한 번도 트윗한 적이 없어.
아 근데 예전에 했었어요. 근데 그 아까 말한 그러니까 없어지기 전에 트윗 다 삭제하고 딜리트하고 네, 없어졌죠.
Okay, he said before he went to Kespa jail or before he didn't disappear, he used to tweet and then he had deleted everything for his disappearance.
Yeah, but now he's back. So where are the tweets?
이제 다시 돌아왔으니까 이제 다시
he's got a tweet today.
해야 되는 거 아니야?
그러니까 해야 되는데 이제 할게요 그냥 이제.
Okay. He's like, okay, I will. So 이쪽에 이제 물어볼 거 질문 내가 벌써 알고 있으니까 I already know what you're gonna ask. 오늘 경기 이긴 거
네.
트위트하고
네.
결승전에서 좀 지켜봐달라고 한번 써줄 수 있어? 트위터로?
아 지금요?
아 지금 끝나고.
네, 네.
I asked him to make sure he tweets about him going on to play.
He's going to tweet then.
He's going to tweet. I'm
All
going to
right.
make sure that it does this.
All right, thank you very much, Susie. Congratulations very much, Byun. Of course, guys, make sure to go to plays.tv for all the action that you may have missed. And also remember that you can have, well, if you are within the top 25 highlights and get a video in there, you may get an event ticket to go to the Interactive Masters in Katowice. And thank you very much, guys. We'll be going to the second semi-finals in just a minute.